Hello, I'm Richard Chambers, President and CEO of the Institute of Internal Auditors. Thank you for joining me in this series of insights and advice, where I'm having conversations with thought leaders and II leaders and internal audit leaders from around the world. I'm joined by Todd Davies. Todd is member of Audit and Risk Committees and a longtime friend of the IIA and a noted expert in risk management. I'm also joined by Tom McLeod, who is an experienced CAE, Chief Audit Executive, and experienced Chief Risk Officer, also very noted expert in the risk management field. How about your view, Todd? What would you stress for a Chief Audit Executive in terms of how to demonstrate that value right now? Again, considering the risk landscape we just talked about, what additional advice would you offer?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I think the classical definition of risk is the effect of uncertainty on objectives, but we tend to simplify things in terms of likelihood and consequence. We don't really talk about uncertainty. We don't deal with uncertainty per se. As we know, uncertainty is paralyzing. If you don't know what's going on, if you're disoriented, if you don't know what to do or even what the facts are of a situation, you can't make good decisions. And so, what leaders really need now is really good data, good old-fashioned assurance, things are okay or we don't know, as opposed to conjecture. So it's the old assurance notion, I think for me, that's really important. If a number of things are uncertain, if you can give certainty on some of those things or some aspects of those things, leaders have more to work with. Case in point, in the New York Times this week, they cited a couple of studies that referred to COVID spread in schools amongst young children. Those data studies were based on conjecture on possible spread that they didn't have the database around it. I'm responsible for the second largest education system, I believe, in the world, and we've been able to do contact tracing, and publish some of the data on that. What we found is that in our samples, at least, that kids don't spread the disease. It's an important fact, based on available data. We hope that stands up. So the ability to then make decisions based on data is really important. So the old assurance piece, I go back to confidence. Richard, you'll remember a time when we were drilled on confidence intervals and sample sizes and whether a control was robust and all the good stuff that they used to teach in the CIA, and I'm sure they still do. Giving confidence, giving certainty that enables leaders to act, that's the main game for me. And that's what assurance is all about. The value add will come, the leakage will come, the foresight will come. But it's old-fashioned assurance for me every time. But I've been on that view for a very long time, as a lot of people on audit committees are.
I almost feel like the one assurance that probably is needed the most from internal audit is some assurance that management has considered all of the uncertainty, because I think what we're looking at in the second half of this, as a CEO, I can tell you that my biggest concern is not navigating through the health crisis as much as it is what is going to come in the second half of the year in terms of the economic conditions in which we have to navigate. So as a chief audit executive, if I were a chief audit executive, I'd hope that I would be looking at whether management in the organization has considered all of the uncertainty and has done the sort of planning to get them through the second half of the year in a variety of conditions. But you guys are the real experts in risk management. Tom, last thoughts on your part for how internal audit adds value when it comes to the environment we're operating in.
Well, I suspect that we are just about to enter, Richard, into the golden age of data analytics. We are on this call all old enough and wise enough to remember 20 years ago when we had the vision of data analytics, but not the tools. Then we slowly got the tools, but the underlying data didn't exist. Now we're at a point where we've got the vision, the tools, and the underlying data, and I think that what we're going to see is really key risk decisions being fundamentally based now, especially over the next 6 months, as you rightly say, but also over the next couple of horizons, whether it be 3 years, 5 years, or even 10 years in some industries, we will see very much data-educated risk decisions. And I think the role of the internal auditor as a subject matter expert in data analytics is being able to feed that into those decisions, both in terms of a management tool and also from an independent perspective as well, as a reference point, or as a point of difference, perhaps even. So I'm looking forward in a somewhat of a perverse way to the golden age of data analytics, and perhaps even data analytics that is artificial intelligence embedded, and also data analytics that looks outside of our own organisations into other organisations within the boundaries of competition law, within our industries and across industries. And I think that then we will start to see the nirvana of risk, which is real-time information to make real-time decisions, to be able to provide real-time comfort. And that is ultimately the life cycle that we've always talked about.
I agree. Yeah. Good points. Good points. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with me. I'm Richard Chambers, President and CEO of the Institute of Internal Auditors.